Hello and welcome. My name is Dorota, and I would like to welcome you again to our Versus Monday series. I need to thank everybody who was tuning in to our previous episodes. It's really great to see that you are watching and then you are leaving comments, questions, and as well super interesting suggestions. So this episode is one of the topics that some of you suggested, where I will be talking about or comparing two types of wings that you might see and that GUE divers are using, where one is a horseshoe-shaped wing, as if it was easy to pronounce, and the other one is a donut-shaped wing. And here with this donut thing name, I'm kind of disagreeing a little bit with this because the country where I'm coming from, a donut doesn't have the hole inside, so it looks more like a bun. But okay, some people call these wings a donut wing. For me, it looks more like a bagel wing because it does have, this hole inside or this space where the air is not going to. But leaving all jokes aside, what I would like to talk today about is about a wing that is a U-shaped and a wing that is more oval in shape, so it's more like an O shape. So without further ado, let's go and compare them and see what benefits and disadvantages they have. The first wing that I would like to discuss is the U-shaped wing or the horseshoe-shaped wing. Those wings have been the first ones that I have been encountered with when I was starting to dive GUE configuration or then so-called DIR configuration. So they have been the first ones on the market. Then after a while, the oval-shaped wings have been introduced, and nowadays the oval-shaped wings are much more popular. And it's rarely that I see divers using the U-shaped wings, even though they have certain advantages, which I would like to discuss now. So first I would like to talk a little bit about the shape and the differences you will see when I'm talking about the oval wing a little bit later. So first of all, the U-shaped wing is much wider. If you would look at them, spreading them out on the floor, and they are much shorter compared to the other one. Because of their width, if they are put on the tanks and if you are underwater, they cradle the tanks a little bit more. So the sides of the wing are much higher, and probably that's why we call the wing, because the sides, they look really like wings because they are taller. And if you are a Star Wars fan, like this Imperial cruisers, not cruisers, but the fighters look like, they have these wings sticking up. So this is how a U-shaped wing will look on the tanks. The side wings will be taller. And because of this height and how the air is cradling the tanks, those wings are much more stable. Because if you imagine that the air is sitting a little bit higher in regards of your tanks, it will bring much more stability if we are looking at the stability from side to side. Because the air will be trapped here on the sides and it will really keep you super stable on the water. So this is one of the first big advantages that the divers using those wings have. So it's the stability in regards of side to side. The second advantage of those wings, because of that fact, is that you can transfer gas to one side or the other and keep it there much easier. Because the only place where the gas can travel from one side to the other side is on top of that wing. So then you will need to really go a little bit head up, legs down to let the gas transfer. So if you are in a proper trim position, there is almost no way that the gas will move from one side to the other with slight body movement or slight side-to-side changes. So from that perspective as well, that wing are a little bit easier if you are swimming in an awkward position, like for instance if you are in a cave and you need to go sideways, or in a wreck where you need to go through a narrower passage and you need to be sideways, because then the air will be just staying on one side, the gas from the lower part will transfer there, and it will be much easier for you to keep that position while you are swimming. It will be a little bit harder to get back because you will need to transfer the gas to the other side after you have moved to that passage. But still, about the disadvantages, I will talk a little bit later. So the other advantage of that ability of holding gas on one side or the other, because of the shape of the wing, is that some divers say that if they carry additional gear on one side, and usually with our configuration, we will carry that additional gear on our left side, You can have here stages, you can have here on that side as well a leash with even more stages. So then you might imagine that there will be more weight on one side of the diver, so having a wing that allows you to really keep the gas on the opposite side in this tall wing that the wing have will allow the diver to be a little bit more stable. So this would be the third advantage. And of course, the other advantage for all the classic lovers is that it's classic. So it's the first wing that was there on the market, and some people, they are just staying with them because it's the first true hardcore DIR wing that was there available on the market. So just reviewing the advantages is that because of the shape of the wing, the gas is really equally or could be equally distributed on both sides, making this wing super stable. If you transfer gas to one side of the wing to the other, it can allow you to swim sideways or be in an awkward position much more easier. Because of this as well, you might potentially carry more heavier gear or more equipment on one of your sides because you can transfer the gas to the opposite side of the wing. And the classic part, you know, this cool factor that some people believe this wing still have. So this have been the advantages of that wing. Now we will be discussing the disadvantages of a U-shaped wing or a horseshoe-shaped wing. And you don't know how many times I reshot that shot because I didn't know how to pronounce it properly. But let's talk about the disadvantages of that wing now. So the biggest disadvantage from my perspective is that it's harder to release gas from that wing because within GUE configuration and how the wings are designed, all of the buoyancy control is on your left side. So the most effective dump valve that we have, which is the rear OPV, is on the left side. So if you are imagining this wing having, you know, these tall wings where gas is really trapped on one side, it is not just enough to tilt your head down to release the gas from that wing. You would need to make a move with your body that from the right side, you will need to tilt to the front and then a little bit to the left and up so that the whole gas can transfer from the right side to the left side towards the OPV and then it can be released. Additionally to that movement, it's not only introducing more movement that it's not necessarily maybe needed or welcomed at that moment. The top of the wings normally are a little bit narrow, so the gas will need some time to travel through there. And as well, because it's just behind your head where the hoses and the regulators are, it might be a little bit cramped as well. So the gas will have a little bit limited space to travel, so it will take a little bit of time to get there. So this would be one of the disadvantages. Another disadvantage that is related to it a little bit is that if you are in an environment that forces you to be in a head-down position, so on a slope in a cave where you are descending down, or if you're entering a wreck and you need to enter it head-down, it will be almost impossible to really release all of the gas from your wing because there is no OPV on the other side, and you cannot use your inflator in that position anyway because all of the gas is on the back of the wing. So in that case, there will be some limitations how or where and how you can enter, and you would need to anticipate how to release the gas first. And in some circumstances, it might not be even possible because you will be in that position needing to release gas. So this would be the second disadvantage. The third one is that, and it's a little bit of advantage because I mentioned it as well in the part where I was talking about advantages, is that you can swim in that wing and maintain a side position relatively easily because then the whole gas can be trapped in one side of the wing so that you can travel in that position relatively easily. But because of this exactly, it will be harder to move back to a proper position quickly because then you will need to have a little bit more force to kind of force that gas to go back to the right or the left side depending on which side you have been swimming. So this would be another disadvantage, that it's harder to get off this awkward position that sometimes we might have. The other thing that I found more disadvantages is depending on how you route your hoses, especially your long hose. There are two schools. You should route the long hose in front of your wing, so you will have your body, your long hose, and then the wing. And there is another school saying that it should be your body, the wing, and the long hose is behind the wing, so it's closer to the tanks. But now if you imagine having that tall wing on one side filled with gas, it could be harder to release the long hose from behind there. So this could be as well another disadvantages if you are routing your hose behind the wing, closer to the tanks, as opposite closer to your body, so in front of the wing. So it will be another disadvantage. The next one, because of the shape of the wing, and I mentioned, this Star Wars Imperial fighters with this kind of wings sticking up, this wing will create a little bit more drag in the water, because if you look in the front of the diver, you will have these tall wings on the sides, and they will need to be pushed against the density of the water, so it might require a little bit more effort to swim with those. And then the last one, and I think is the biggest disadvantage from my perspective, is that where this wing is sitting on our body. So if you look at the diver from a side wearing that wing will be positioned from his hips up, because the wing is shorter if you look at it facing forward, which means that the whole buoyancy is located more in front of diver's body, leaving the lower part, so waist down, not being supported by any source of buoyancy. So if you are diving, for instance, in a wetsuit, and you are using jet fins or other heavy stiff fins, because we know the benefits of them, and it's covered in one of the other videos that I have shot, you will notice that with this type of wing, you will need to use much more strength on your lower back and your core muscles to keep the legs up and maintain them there. So keeping the proper trim position will require a little bit more effort, and it can create quite some lower back pain after the dive and a little bit of problems around that area. If you are diving in a dry suit even, and you could say, okay, I can transfer quite a lot of gas to my dry suit boots to compensate the heavy legs, what most of the time happens is that the divers overcompensate and they arch much more than if they would be doing using the other type of wing, putting additional strain to the lower back. And I can tell you that this was, for me, the most pronounced difference that I noticed when I switched from one wing to the other. Which brings me now to the oval-shaped wing, which I would like to discuss next. Now the stage is open for an oval-shaped wing, or a donut-shaped wing, or a bagel-shaped wing, depending on how you want to call it. And the main difference is between this wing and the wing-shaped or the U-shaped wing is that the air goes around the wing. So it is a constant flow of gas around the whole wing, which is a benefit, and I will explain in a few moments why. If you look at this wing compared to the U-shaped wing, this wing is taller and a little bit narrower, still maintaining the same volume if you compare it to the U-shaped wing. So if you have a 40 lbs U-shaped wing, it will be much wider and shorter. And if you have the same volume, so 40 lbs wing, on an oval shape, it will be taller and narrower, still maintaining the same volume. So not the oval-shaped wings, they are not smaller, even though they look a little bit like that. So because of this, that they are narrower, they still cradle the tanks nicely, but the amount of the wing that is kind of flapping around your tanks is much less, which means that the wing still provides a reasonable and quite good stability, but it offers much less drag, because if you look at the diver from the front, the contour of the diver is much more compact, because the wings, they are not sticking out so much, so high over the tanks, like some of the wings of the U-shaped type can create. So the streamlining is better, so there is less drag. The other benefit is that, as I said, it gives good stability, and it as well allows to control where the gas is in your wing a little bit better. So it's not only allowing you to stabilize from side to side, because you can still distribute gas on the left and on the right, but you can as well stabilize in the trim aspect, because the gas can be as well positioned in the front, so on the top of the wing, and on the bottom of the wing. So it can promote a little bit more head down or legs up, or it will be lifting the lower part a little bit nicer than the U-shaped wing, and to this I will come a little bit later. It is as well easier, from my perspective, to release gas from that wing because of its shape. Of course, it has the same disadvantage as the U-shaped wing, that the top of the wing is relatively narrow, and it can have a little bit of restriction there depending on how you route your hoses. But still, it has that connection on the bottom of the wing, allowing you to dump gas from that wing in any position you are, because you can always lift your lower part, so being a little bit head down, and all of the gas will escape to the back. And having the valve on your left side, will allow you to tilt your body a little bit to the left and already release all of the gas without the need of going up to transfer the gas from one side to the other. So it's not only promoting a little bit easier, more effective gas releasing from the wing, but as well it requires a little bit less movement of your body to transfer the gas from one side to the other, because the gas can travel all around and it's a little bit easier. So this would be another advantage. The next thing that comes with it as well, because of the ease of transferring the gas, it will be easier to get off an awkward position, which means if you are on your back or if you're on the side, it will be easier to go back to your proper position, so tanks up, with a little bit less effort. It is a little bit of a disadvantage, but about the disadvantages I will talk in a moment. And the most important thing for me is how it allows to achieve the proper trim. And now I will connect it to the disadvantage, the biggest disadvantage from my perspective from the U-shaped wing. So compared to the oval wing, the U-shaped wing doesn't have support on your lower body, whereas the oval-shaped wing does that. So you will have the ability to transfer the gas to the bottom of the wing and help you a little bit with achieving a proper trim, because it will be lifting, or it will be allowing you to have a little bit more lift around your lower back, and it will allow you to have your legs lifted easier, which means much less lower back pain and much less strain and much less options or possibilities to overarch, to keep your legs high. And we as GUE divers know how important it is to have the legs high, because if you're in a cave, if you're in a wreck, or if you are swimming very close to a very pristine reef, you do not want to have fins, kicking the bottom, because you will be destroying the environment, you will be destroying your visibility, and in the end, it might become really unsafe depending on the environment where you are. So for us, having a proper trim is extremely important, and this oval-shaped wings is promoting that position much easier. And I can speak from my own experience, because in the beginning, I was diving in a U-shaped wing, and I was very happy with it, like most of the people who do not have a comparison. But then I switched to the oval-shaped wing, and I was happy with that wing as well. Because again, even if I could compare now, it was just fine to dive the other type of wing as well. But one day I swapped wings with my students, because he wanted to test the oval-shaped wing before he was buying it, and I ended up using my old U-shaped wing. And I can tell you that after the dive, I barely walked out of the water because of the lower back pain. It was such a severe difference for me that I said, okay, now I proved to myself that this wing, oval-shaped wing, is much nicer on my lower back, and it promotes a little bit less effort to maintain a good position. And if you are talking about long dives, if you are talking about dives that require you to be in that position for prolonged periods of time, that tiny difference makes a huge difference, because you can just walk out of the water and not, bent over with a severe back pain, feeling like you are much, much older than you actually are. So from my perspective, this difference is the biggest one, is the biggest advantage of the oval wing, that I have the gas in the back, where it can support my proper trim position without excessive effort. So now let's talk a little bit about the disadvantages of the oval-shaped wings. You might think that I'm a little bit biased, because the oval-shaped wing is the wing of my choice, and I mentioned quite many advantages of diving those wings. But they do have some disadvantages, and I would like to mention them just to be fair and give the points that are positive to the U-shaped wings accordingly. So first of all, the oval-shaped wings, they will be less stable compared to the U-shaped wings, because the reason for this would be that the gas can travel really easily around that wing, so it will be quicker to have changes in your body position if you change. So it would require maybe a little bit more awareness of your body. It might require you to be a little bit more fixed with your body itself to keep the wing and to keep yourself with the wing attached to you in the proper position. The second thing would be, as a disadvantage, is that if you are swimming in an awkward position, so for instance sideways, it is maybe easier to get into that position, because the gas will get to the top part of the wing quicker, or the top part, or the part that is highest at that point quicker. But because there will be less gas on that side, it will be harder to maintain that position, and you will need to use more body tension to stay there. so it might be a little bit trickier to maintain a side or any other awkward position with that wing because of the easiness of the gas that is being transferred around. The other disadvantage that some divers claim they see, though I didn't notice it myself, is that if you are carrying equipment on one side, so if you have stages here or you have a leash with additional stages, if you have any heavy equipment hanging on that side like a camera, then some divers claim it's harder to keep a proper position because of how much gas you can distribute to the opposite side is a little bit less. So they say it's harder to maintain a good stable position, so equal left to right, if you have more equipment on one side. Though from my experience I didn't really notice the difference because potentially I might have a little bit more awareness and more ability to balance this with having a different tension in my body when I'm carrying equipment on one side only. And now, trying to figure out more disadvantages, to be honest, I cannot find more. So, as you can see, the oval shaped wings, they have quite many advantages. They might require you to be a little bit more aware of your body, a little bit more precise in your movement, but they are much easier to dive. So, that would be the reason as well probably why most of the divers, if you look at the technical divers today, they will use oval shaped wings. But as well, recreational divers using a single tank, they tend to have, or they like to have the advantage of having an oval-shaped wing on a single tank as well. But you will see those wings on twin sets, on big twin sets, on rebreathers. So it looks that the oval-shaped wings are much more popular. And this you can as well see that some companies, they're even thinking about stopping the production of the U-shaped wings because there is so much demand for them on the market. But, as I said, there are some strong believers in the U-shaped wings, the divers that really found those much more stable and then they allow it maybe to have a little bit more fixed position underwater. For me, diving these two types of wing is a little bit like driving two types of cars. You can drive a big, fat, heavy, stable truck, where if you sit in it, you really feel the heaviness of the car and you really drive. When you drive, it's just super fixed on the road. Or you can drive a sports car where a small movement on your wheel will kind of transfer the movement to the car and you will be much more quicker, or you could be much more quicker and you can make more evasive maneuvers if you would need to. But it requires a little bit more awareness, a little bit more body awareness maybe a little bit more attention on how you position your body and how you dive the wing. But for me, the biggest advantages was, or not advantages, but the biggest advantage was how it improved my position underwater and how much easier it was, and I could get rid of my lower back or post-dive lower back pain almost completely. Even if the dives are few hours long, I rarely have a lower back pain nowadays when I started to use the oval-shaped wing. Of course, the wing shape will not fix all of your problems because many things in relation to your position and underwater posture is related to how you can control your body and how you can bring a proper body tension, but it's a totally different topic. But still, now I hope that this video showed you advantages and disadvantages of both types of wings. So a U-shaped wing, which is more stable, it has a little bit more drag, but it allows to be in an awkward position easier. It has the ability to transfer the gas from one side to the other and keep the gas on one side, compared to an oval-shaped wing where it's a little bit maybe less stable, but it allows to control your buoyancy, so how you release the gas from the wing easier in any position that you are. And it's a little bit less drag because of the shape and the profile of the wing when it's put on the tanks. So I hope that this will allow you to choose more aware, or you will be more aware how to choose a wing for you and maybe discover why you have certain problems with diving certain wings. And of course, if you have your own experiences with it, if you have noticed different things, or if you would like to share your experiences or your pros and cons of those wings, please do share it and please write us comments down below, because it's really very good to see that you are having your own experiences and you would like to share it with the community around. So please do share, please do ask questions, so we will try to answer them as much or as quickly as we can. And then Thank you for this time. I hope to see you on the next Monday, which will be our new version of Versus Monday. Thank you very much and see you next time.